The first time I knew I was going to be an artist subconsciously was when I was about 2 years old, and I took like a red marker or a lipstick or something in a little rented flat that we had in Taipei. And I just kind of drew a continuous squiggly line around the perimeter of the flat on the level of maybe 50 centimeters from the ground, like a giant 2-year-old Bayeux tapestry that circled the entire space. And I was really proud of it. But my mum saw it and she was not very happy, and she made 2-year-old me wash everything off. But that was my first magnum opus. My name is Aziza Kadyri, and I'm a London-based interdisciplinary artist, originally from Uzbekistan. I work across textiles, self-sculpture, installation, performative practices, and creative technology. I always say that my art career is proving to my dad that I'm able to actually live off art. And recently, when I had the screening at Piccadilly Circus, and it was a screening of a short film about my dad, and I showed images to my father afterwards, and I think that was the moment I saw in his eyes where he realized that actually, being an artist is a legitimate career, because he was like, oh, he saw his face on the big Piccadilly screen. And he was like, okay, I see the impact, I see the possibilities. So, finally, I'm getting there. I am originally Uzbek, but also I didn't grow up in Uzbekistan, right? I was born in Moscow. At the age of 1, we moved to Taipei and then moved back to Moscow to attend school. And after that, changing locations every 2-3 years, a very nomadic and a very migrant existence. A home is where your people are. And in that sense, I have many homes. And I'm very lucky to say that. I have to say that London is the first city that I've lived in my entire life where I don't feel like an outsider, weirdly. Outsider not in the sense that, I've never been ostracized, by society, but I feel like everyone is different and everyone is from somewhere. And in that way, there's a certain level of anonymity that is afforded in the city where you can just go about and do your own thing, and that thing can be however weird you want it to be or however different, and it will still be interesting to the people around you. A lot of my family from my mother's side, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, my cousins, and my mum herself, they graduated from the Institute of Textile and Light Industry in Tashkent and work with textiles their whole lives. The reason I feel like I can talk to textiles is because I was always surrounded by them without kind of consciously acknowledging it. In my work, I really like working with salvaged or pre-existing textiles and, embroideries that I find in vintage stalls, because I like having this conversation and kind of layering on already existing layers of history. Also, as a form and in its materiality, I think I can relate to it very much. As a person who has had this kind of migration experience where I had to adapt to every single environment, I felt like a piece of cloth that had to change its shape, wrapping around something or fitting around something. The clothing that you wear is in constant kind of negotiation with your body, and it's there and it supports you, but also there's this kind of space in between, and I'm quite interested in these relationships. I'm a big fan of magical realism in literature, and it's quite easy to recreate when you're making a film, where everything goes slightly wrong, weird, magical, or supernatural. But how do you create that in real life? And I think one of my artistic interests is cracking this problem and trying to recreate this through making installations or experiential design or immersive experiences. For the past year, I've been a resident in Somerset House. I'm a Creative Technologies Fellow in collaboration with the Creative Computing Institute at UAL. For the longest time, I wanted to expand immersive nature of the installations that I make, because I was wondering how I can make the space create these points of surprise, the magical realism that I was talking about. So being in this residency really allowed me to explore that. And I'm currently working on a show, and it's called Play Nice. In this show, you will encounter a fragmented childhood memory that will show this kind of convergence of reality and dream. And I really want to encourage people to explore. Coming from a theatre, we say if there was no audience, did the play even exist? My work is only somewhat finished when people come in and start interacting with it, bringing their own interpretations. And I'm really happy when that happens. When people come in and say, oh, this really reminds me of something very particular from their lives, which I never actually even thought would be a part of the process, but it means that resonates and means that they're really kind of stepping into this space of memory that I created and I invited them into. Because I also think, what is the point of like reminiscing about childhood or like the past or something without actually really making it democratic and allowing people into that space? There's a certain vulnerability that comes with it, but I think that is what really maybe creates this connection.